What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of building an blackjack game. Today we're gonna build we're gonna continue on working on the backend. So last time we built the mechanism to the logic for blackjack to add the players and then just play the game. Hit a card, hit or stand, all that functionality for blackjack. And so we built a simple AI. Today, I want to take all that, refactor it a little bit. We're gonna add an API, so this is gonna be a sequel, right? So this is gonna be a prerequisite so that in hello, Mr. Goat, how are you doing? Thanks for joining the stream. And let's see. Yeah, so as I was saying, let me adjust the volume here. And so we are gonna take the application we built so far and we're gonna change it a little bit because this is gonna be a sequel. In the next episodes, we're gonna build a client from the ground up and it's gonna look like an actual blackjack game. But for now, the prerequisite is to have an API service, and so we are going to we're gonna add Express server. It's a Node.js library, and so we're gonna add that. We're gonna add Express framework for the REST API, and so today we're gonna refactor the backend a little bit so that we have the actual game and the game service. So I'm gonna start adding instances, so every time like you can send a command, create a game, and then that it's gonna generate an ID with the state of the game. So we're gonna make it a little bit stateful. So we're gonna do that. I think that's the biggest change. And also in the last session, the player and the dealer, they each have an interface. So I'm gonna consolidate this to only have the player, because really what happens is that the dealer and the player are essentially the same, except one it's a type of machine or AI, whatever, and the other one is player. So I'm gonna create two new types. One is gonna be player, one is gonna be dealer. So we know that the dealer is gonna be machine, right? So that's gonna be that. Perfect. Yeah, we're not gonna focus on more advanced topics such as authentication, session management, data retention, all that stuff. It's not gonna matter. So what I'm gonna do for now, as long as the backend service will run, I will use a memory to persist some data such as game states. They're gonna be in the memory. So the moment we're gonna restart this backend application, you're gonna lose that state. But that's not a problem at all, actually. I have everything behind Docker, so it's I have Docker Compose. Let's review that in a moment here. Actually, I don't think I have Docker Compose. No, not yet, but I do have this one. So what I'm going to do in the future, I'm going to create a Compose. So I'm going to move everything from here into backend and frontend. And with Docker Compose, we're going to build both the client and the backend. Yeah, but for now, we're going to work on the backend, right? Okay. Yeah, so let's go. And right off the bat, I think what I want to do, I want to create a few new folders. One is going to be services. And the other one is gonna be routes, because we're gonna add the Express web server. Okay, so those are created. You're not seeing it because it's on the left side of my ID, my text editor. All right. And so the first thing, I guess, what we can do here for the interface, we can maybe in the player, we can export the type, right? Export type. This one is going to be player type, perhaps. And it's going to be player or dealer, like so. And then what's going to happen here, type is going to be player type, like so. All right, Cool. Name, okay, perfect. So iCar, so everything's okay, perfect. This is good. And then we're gonna remove the dealer. This is gonna break some code, but we're gonna refactor it anyways, doesn't matter. So I remove the dealer and we don't need that. And so in the player implementation now, direct implement interface of player type, yeah, right. So we're gonna declare type now, and like so. It's gonna be a string. So when we create the player, we can pass the name and type, obviously. And then here, we're gonna do this type equals type, like so. And then we're gonna have the hand, just like so. Okay, so we don't have to change anything else for now on this. Actually, there's a problem here. Oh, I see. I see what's happening. So it has to be player type then. Well, do that because I exported the type, right? Okay. So I guess I have to import player type. So. Yeah. All right. Do that. And just to test this, so we can do. Let's test it. So we can do constant player equal new player, and we're gonna pass a name, which is in this case gonna be Marius, and then good to know that you're doing well, Mr. Goat 006 Goat. And then we're gonna do player type. So that's the thing. Why I can't? Obviously, it's not human. It's just player, right? But that's another thing. Why I can't read that? Only for a type. Okay. All right. So we can just do player like so, right? And yeah, we can just console log here like so. Player. Okay. Now let's run that. Actually, I don't have the. I'm not sure in the console in this. Maybe we want to bring it for now. Let me just bring it back. And then there you go. So I'll make it so it shows over. To move up. It shows over the. So what you see, the other app I have here in the background is this one here. It's my the app. It's called Postman. It's the app I'm gonna use. So if I look here, it's because I have that stuff there. It's gonna be the app we're gonna use to create requests, so HTTP requests to the Express web server, and so we can configure it to send GET, POST, and all these things here. It's gonna be a good tool to have. But for now, we're just gonna test this change. Okay, let's go to source, and this is in the models. And so we're gonna run this node layer, just like so. Okay, so this worked. And so like if you try to put any other type, it's probably not gonna accept it. In fact, it's already telling you, see, it's not assignable because of player type, right? So it forces you to. The reason I did that is because I want to force only the two accepted values, which are player or dealer. And so if I put here dealer, it will accept it, as you see, and the moment is something else you want. So if we go back to interface of player right here, that's the whole point of doing this. Okay. So if you go back into the player, okay, so we are good with that. And we can just move on to the next thing. I guess next what I want to do, I want to install. Let's do it from here. I guess I want to install Express, right? So we're gonna use two commands for that. One is gonna be to install the Express with, in fact, we're gonna need the UID and course libraries, right? And so that's the first step, and we're gonna save it npm. So we're gonna do that like so, npm install. So I need three libraries. It's gonna be Express, course, and UIDs. So this one is gonna be needed because I'm gonna create the unique integer or identifier for this ID of that game state session. Okay, so we can do save here. Boom, done. And so now that we're done, there's one more step we need to do, and that's to install the TS, the TypeScript and development tools. It came to my attention that when you do this, the best practice is to save it to dev, because those will never be in production, right? So just as a best practice, I guess, just save it to dev. It will be added to dev dependencies in this case, right? And so for that, you're gonna do, so I think I have TypeScript added. If I don't, well, we'll do this. Let's see. I think I have TypeScript installed, so I don't need that, and I don't need TS node dev. I already have them, so I'm just gonna do the types for Express, because I think I have it for Node. Well, you know what? Let's see. Yeah, let's do the ones for Express. I'm pretty sure I have it for Node, but I don't think they are added to. They're not added to dev dependencies. I don't think I did that last time. There you go. So if we check package JSON now, you'll see that it's been added to dev dependencies. Actually, the node is added there. Okay, there you go. This one here. But it's also in the actual dependencies for prod. Okay, UID, perfect. So this looks okay. And yeah, we do have the TypeScript one. Perfect. All right, so we have those, and now we can hack away. And so let's think about. So the first, let's just build a simple Express app, right? We're gonna use that for exposing the backend, and we'll start creating the routes. The routes is gonna be start game and hit or stand actions. I think that's enough for now. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking what routes do I want to add. So I think this one we can create an index.js obviously for this one in the source. So we can create a new file called index.ts, and this one is going to contain the main app for Express, right? Okay. So we're gonna need the Express, we're gonna need course, we're gonna need, and later we're gonna define the routes in the routes folder, which we just created. We're probably gonna create another file called game routes. Yes, and we're gonna add them there. The port by default is gonna be 3001. That's fine with me. It's gonna be basic. I'm gonna use course for this, so no extra security layers, etc. for now. and all the API routes are going to be prefixed with API, right? And then we're going to start a server and let's see how it goes, right? And so in the package JSON, let's double check something. So what's my scripts? Okay. Yeah, okay. So if I do npm run dev, it's gonna start right here. It's gonna start the web server, which is fine. That's totally fine. Okay. So let's do that. Express from Express. No, I don't want that. I hate it. Sometimes autocorrection, it's not good. And so we want the express from, we want the course. That's the next text. So import course from course, which is the new package we added. And then, so let's start creating the app. So const app equal express, and that's all that it takes, really, to create a, okay, why is this not recognized? Oh, never mind. It is recognized. It says it's declared, but its value is never read. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so port, we're gonna define the port, and then we're gonna use the course, and we're gonna tell it to use JSON as well, and then we're gonna do app listen to the port, right? So app use course, and we're gonna call it like so. Course, for people that don't know, it's cross-origin refer or something. It's to do with when API interacts among different servers and applications. So use express JSON like so. Okay, and then we can define a port. Normally you would want to have this from environment, but I can also sure, yeah, let's do that. And then for the app, so app listen ports, and then this is the callback function, console servers running on port. Perfect. And no, actually I want, yeah, and this, because this is gonna run on my local, right? Do I want to? Yeah, sure, we can say that. So it's gonna be at, it's running at HTTP localhost ports, and so let's remove that like so. Okay, so this should create the, could not find a declaration file for module course. Interesting. How we installed it. I thought it was installed right here. Maybe because I need the types. Yeah, I think so. Let's test something. Course from let's look into that error. Could not find declaration file for module course. Huh. Good. should be an easy problem to solve. So it's most likely that I need to install the types then. Yeah, I think that's what I'm seeing. Okay. All right, cool. So let's add a new tab there. Oops, I changed cars again. Okay. And here we're gonna do in npm install types course. Sorry, we're gonna do save dev. There you go. Okay. So this should fix that problem right there. Okay. And now if I do npm run dev, it should run the server. Yep. Server running at HTTP, etc. All right. So now we don't have any routes, obviously. So if we try to access this API, it's not gonna return anything. But just for the sake of it, I guess we can just do a basic route, right? Okay, let's just use this randomized thing here. And so because of that, I need to restart the server. So we're just gonna run this again. And so now if I call localhost right here, like so, if I do a get on it, I should get that, okay, connection refused. Right, because it's 3001, I believe it was. 3000, okay. So you need to add a port. There you go. So as you see, actually let me just where's the terminal here? Okay. So as you see, I called localhost 3000, which is pointing to here, to this address, right? And so the web server is listening to it, to the main route, which in this case it's equal to that, so you don't have to type anything else. But if I did, for example, my custom route equals something, so now this one won't work. See, it says 44, means it's not found. And now if I do this again and I type here my custom route, and then I say, okay, this is my custom route. So if I restart the server now, which I just did now, and if I call this custom route right now, it should give me the message I just put there, like so. There you go. As you see here, the result. So that's a basic 101, some basic routing, nothing crazy. So we're gonna remove those routes. In fact, we're gonna start implementing like some basic, it's gonna be API, and then we're gonna create new routes, and those routes would process start game, hit or stand actions, right? Cool. So we're getting somewhere. That's awesome. So for so now that we have this, now we have that. That's awesome. I'm gonna look at what do we want to do next. I'm gonna look at not the game routes, but maybe what type of. Actually, no, we can look. Let's create a game routes. They're gonna be very, very basic, so we're not gonna have the game instance yet. We need to create a service for a game, and we're gonna have an implementation of the game class to be added to the state. The game state is gonna be in the game service, so that's gonna work. That's how it's gonna work. And so for the game routes, we can even add them here on the index, honestly. Yeah. Hmm. So start is going to be a post, and then we can also do a get, obviously, to get information, to get the state data for a game ID. And we can do game like hit or stand action. So there's going to be four APIs we're going to add, right? Okay, so let's see how will it look like. Let's add the game routes in the routes folder, new file, game routes, ts, like so. And so for this, we're gonna import Express library again. We're gonna have a game service added to it. Okay, and then router, Express router. Okay, and yeah, we're gonna add the new routes. So import Express from Express, and here we're gonna add game service. But for now, let's create a router. So const game router, sure. Game router equal Express router, just like so. No additional configuration here. And so let's start adding our routes. So let's look at get. That's gonna be the most obvious one. So game router, we're gonna do a get. Okay, so let's just do that like that, the autocomplete. And for the get, we're gonna have, we're gonna have game, and then we're gonna have ID. So game, and we're gonna have game ID, like so. And so we want to read the input variables here, and we're gonna get the game ID obviously from the request. So we can do define the constant game ID, and then we can attempt to get a game based on that ID. All right, and then if we don't find a game, then we're gonna return an error. Otherwise, we will return JSON with the game state information, right? So the response is gonna be JSON something. JSON something. We're just gonna do empty for now. And here we're gonna do game ID from params. Or body, no, from params, sorry, yeah. And then, okay, and then here to do get the game state from game service. And then, so let's assume that game, okay. And if not game, we're gonna do a 404 game not found, right? We can even display the ID that was found here. Do I want to do that? Sure. With ID, and then we pass the game ID. Need that, just like so. Okay, so this route will serve as getting the data for that state. Okay, response status. So let's see if it looks good. Yep, I think this is good here, and we can do a test. That's the beauty of it. But for doing the test, I will need to do a few more changes actually before I rerun this web server, right? So I'm gonna have to include the game routes now. So before, right? So before, what I'll do is this one, it's gonna be exported. So I'm gonna export game router. Right, like so. And we can also do a, yeah, we can do a default here, really. Doesn't matter. Game router like so. And inside index TS, we're gonna do an import like so. Game router from routes. Is it in the source though? Yes. Source routes, I believe. Actually, no. Index is in the source, so that's cool the way it was. Okay, this is good. And so before we do that, and we can remove this this one here. So right about here we can do use game router, right? And for that we can also add a prefix maybe. Yeah, we can do that. So use let's prefix it with API and then game router or game routes actually. So yeah, let's do this game routes. Okay, so that's refactoring, and then in here I'm gonna do game routes. Okay, so that's it. That's the first step. Now we can start the web server again. Okay, so it's listening on 3000, which is the default, nothing crazy. And so now that we defined that, let's do a test quickly. This is gonna be a 4.4. Yep. And now we said that our API for getting the game will look like so game, and then here we're gonna have to pass an ID, right? So this is probably gonna be a hash or whatever. We could just do whatever number. It's going to the right place, as you see. Right, it's gonna return. I think it's gonna return. Let's double check, because it returns okay. Because obviously we're not doing the check now if the game is there or not. In fact, the game is not there because I declare it's empty here, right? Well, a better representation would be like this, right? So obviously, like, now it's not gonna find it, or we can check if it's empty, right? Yeah, like so, or we can do if not game length, right? Then let's define this back to that. Okay, let's just do that. So it's false, and then I'll have to rerun this, and then if I call it again, it's gonna give me the error with game not found with ID, etc. I'm just simulating the fact that it's not gonna find. There you go. Game not found with ID, the one we passed. Whatever we pass in the URL, it will be passed on to the API. So it can be anything, even letter. I think it's alphanumeric. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So okay, so if we have that, and if I add another route, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be 4.4. Let's see. Yeah, so it doesn't find a route, right? So if you malform the route in any way, it's just not gonna work because it does not match. It doesn't match the pattern we define here. This is the URI if you want. Okay, cool. So we have that working. And so let's export a few more. So let's do game routes. So we're gonna do another get for. So what do we have? Actually, no, we're gonna need 3 posts for this one. So first, we're gonna need to start a game. The other one is gonna be to hit or stand. Okay, so let's do post. So this one's gonna be post game. So let's just do the default here. Okay, post game, and this one is gonna be start game. So okay, so this is gonna be a little bit more tricky. But ideally, what we have when we start a game, right? So we have the player names, right? I think that's all we have. So we need a player and a dealer, right? Or we can maybe call them actors. And so the players are gonna have a player name and a player type, right? Well, we can define how we're gonna get it. And once we have that, I guess the game service. So we're gonna need the game service again here to create a game, right? And that's gonna so game service will expect the it will expect the players, right? The player data. So it would look something like this: const player data. So this one will be passed in the body because it's a post. So again, post versus get. So post, it's gonna be hidden. You're not gonna have it in the URL, so it's hidden from the browser, the data the payload that's been sent from the client to the server. So that's why you take it from the body when it's a post. I'm gonna have to review this exactly how I want to pass them, because most likely I'm gonna have players with each of them will have a player name and a type inside, and it's gonna be kind of like an array of them. And once I have that player data, it's gonna look something like this: to do start a game with game service, right? So let me just do the default here. We might not be able to finish it today, but nevertheless, we're making good progress. Okay, and so yeah, so what do we want to do? So here the game is gonna be so first we need to validate maybe the players, and then based on that, the game service most likely will return. So once we do let's say something like this, game service create or start game or create game. Create game, I think, right? Yeah, create game would initialize basically the game, right? So we can do that, and then we can maybe just return, like we would get an ID and a state. The state would be the data. So we can do maybe something like this. And then we're gonna return the game ID with game state, right? So here, for now, we're just gonna type something basic, but the structure, we're gonna look at the structure for game state, but it's most likely gonna have a status of the game, and it's gonna have the deck, and it's gonna have the player data, right? And each player will have a deck, right? Okay. Deck as in like player hand if you want. Okay. But yeah, this is the gist of it. The other one is gonna be game routes, post end game. We don't really need that for now. Let me just do the default here. Okay, we don't need that, but we need hit or stand. Okay. So for this one, the action. So we need a player information here. So first we need the game ID, obviously, and so it's gonna come, and then we're gonna need we're gonna need the player data again. So this one will come from params because this one is going to be inside the URL. Okay. And then the player data will come from the body, right? So if we don't have the player data, we're gonna return an error, etc. And then again, we can have, as an example, we can have game service hit, right? And then it's gonna be game ID and player data, or we can have something like, yeah, we can do that, something like that. We'll figure it out as we go, okay? And so for the stand is gonna be the same thing. Yep, let's do the same thing for now. Stand. Perfect. And so we're gonna have to do some other validation, such as, is the player data valid and is the game ID valid, right? So we're gonna have to add some more validation. So the start game, we don't really care about that. And player data, we might do some validation here. So I think in the state, another thing we can do in the state, we add like whose turn it is. For example, if the state says, hey, it's player turn, but then the dealer will try to access to request something, it won't work because the game expects the player to make an action of hit or stand, right? So we can also add that type of validation, such as, does the player data have names and types? Okay, and then here, so we're gonna do here, so validate which player turn it is, the player or dealer. So let's call it actor actually, because this is confusing. So let's call the player an actor. An actor can be a player or a dealer actually. I think this is better. So validate which actor, and for that reason we're gonna change everything to actor data. Where actors equals players. Okay, cool. And so validate which actor turn it is. That is the player or the dealer. And so the other one, we're gonna validate game state or ID. just like so. And I think this is it. We have a post. We don't really need post. Yes, we do, because of the player data. That's fine. Do we need here post? Yes. Okay, so those are that's fine. Okay, so let's just restart the server. We're gonna do a few tests. So I'll show you something here. So API game, assuming that, let's say it's gonna be that number, doesn't matter, and then we're gonna do pit. This should return 4.4, which it does, and the reason is because post is a different method, so we need to change that to post. And it's gonna be another issue, but it's not gonna throw an error. It should return 200 here. Actually, it's a 500 now. Okay, let's see what the error is. Yep, it says actor data of request body is undefined, right? So again, for those things, another thing we can do, we can wrap into that, and then we're gonna catch the error, and we're gonna decide what we want to do with it. Right, so typically this means a bad request, right? So we don't need to crash the whole thing for it. Okay, cool. Let's do that, and then we have a bunch of to-dos for later. Okay. And default, we're just gonna return JSON. Actually, maybe what I want to do, I'll return. Yeah, I'll return here. I'll return JSON there, like so. So this is essentially going to be the same thing, really. Maybe we want to encapsulate that at a later time. Okay, and I'm just looking at the time. I'll probably have to end in like 10 minutes for the day. Online for 47 minutes. Yeah, so I'll cap it at 1 hour. We'll see how much work we've done in 1 hour, but so far so good. We have the express, we have the routes, and we're hacking away. So now if I send the same request, it should not be a 500, it should be a 400 exactly, right? So it says bad request because that's how we basically coded that, right? And then it's gonna show the error in the console log. So this here implement logging so it can be stored properly, right? Okay, cool. Okay, so once we have this, what else we said we're gonna do? So we probably want to have the models, and we want to have services. We want to have the game service, right? So let's create game service interface. And we're going to create a game model as well. So game TS and an interface. So new file game TS. All right. So we're going to have an interface for the game and for the game service. Let's look at the game service. I'm excited about that. We can just like mock the stuff until we can connect the pieces. Just bear with me. It's gonna be awesome. Increase the volume a bit here on the music. So I'm thinking how do we want to do the interface? So we have the cards and do we have the deck? We don't. Oh no, we do. Actually, we don't. So anyways, I'm gonna have to do the deck. But the game service should be straightforward, and I'm thinking, do we need an interface for that? I don't know. We could create an interface but again, it's just gonna be one, just to ensure, I guess, consistency if you want. Yeah. I'm thinking I want to add an interface, and for that interface, the game service is gonna be, it's gonna have two main functions. One is gonna be to create a game, and the second one is gonna be to get the game. But then, interesting. So the games, because we're gonna keep them private, I guess. And for the types, actually, yeah, maybe we can keep everything in one place, right? Like, for example, we have those here, right? or for now, what I can do, yeah, I'll just keep it here for now. Let's remove this one. Okay, so let's create the interface. Okay, right here. Okay, and so for that, we're gonna export a type, which is gonna be game state. It's gonna be okay. It's probably gonna be depending on the status of the game, right? Okay, so what do we want to have in here, right? So we're gonna have create game. Right, so this is gonna be so we need a game state for that, right? Game state, so we need an okay, so we need the interface for game state as well for sure. And then the game state will be used in the game service, and the game state would define, okay, I see. And this one would have create game and get game. And then perhaps the actions for hit and stun will be within the game, because those are actions related pertaining to the game. Okay, so maybe we can do that, yeah. Right. Okay, I see. So the name, do we want to create game? Yeah, we do want that. The player type, right? The player name and the player type. But it's gonna be two of them, so maybe we just need player data instead, which is gonna be an array of players. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. And so it's gonna be public by default, right? We can just say public. Oops. And it's gonna create game, and here we said we're gonna do player data, and this is gonna be player data, and it's gonna be an array of players. And then what else do we need to pass? I think that's it, right? Yeah. And the return is gonna be a game ID and the state of the game, right? So game ID, it's gonna be a string, and then game state, which we're gonna define in a second. Something like that. So the import player data from no. Actually, yes, from player. So let's double check what's happening here. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Excuse me, iPlayer. Right. You type, okay. Right, okay, sorry. So it's like that. Okay. Apparent type member. I guess, yeah, that's fine. It's public anyways by default. And so it's gonna return the state with the game state, right? Now for the game state, so game state is gonna be an ID, which is the game ID. Do we need the players, right? A status. Do we need a deck count? No. I think we need a deck. We definitely need a deck. It's not enough that the player has the hand. We definitely need a deck. Yep, we do need a deck. So, okay. Let's define the game state. And I think that's gonna be the last thing we're gonna do today. But that was very productive. Yes, game state. So here, export interface I game state, and so we said that we're gonna pass the game ID. It's gonna be a string. Then it's gonna be players, and this is gonna be an array of player, a deck, so this is gonna be an array of cards. I'm gonna have to do the imports in a second. What else do we want to have? Deck count is honestly not important. Maybe we can do the status then. Turn, I guess. Turn. Sure. We're gonna do turn. And so this one is gonna be player or dealer. And then we can do game status. So for this one, we can do in progress. Or we can do, here we can do player turn or dealer turn, right? But let's just do active or finished or something, or in progress. Active is in progress, or finished. Yeah, let's just stick with the two for now. And so here we're gonna do the imports right now. Import iCard from card, yes. Then player, yes. And then I think that's it. Beautiful. And so now that we have that, we're gonna import the game state from game state, and then that's it. And the state would expect us to pass that. Excellent, excellent. Okay, I'm just thinking more about the game. So now, yeah, the game interface is gonna be interesting. Okay, so the game service, we can attempt to do an implementation of that. Although we don't have the game now, but the game, so the game is gonna be the one where we're gonna add the players in, and we're gonna set a game ID. which is gonna be defined. Yeah, it's probably gonna be defined. I think the game service should be the one assigning the game ID. Or no, the game service should be the controller just handling the. So I think the game, when you create a game, the actual game, so for example you're gonna have game equal new game, that's when you're gonna return the ID, right? So we can try that actually. Very, very simple. Okay, so let's implement those two simple things into models. So I have the game, and I have the game. Well, the game service is not, it's a service, right? So we'll do that. But for the game, let's do that. Export a class game, and so we're gonna have constructor. And so what I want to do is to define a game ID, right? And so this is going to be a string, and we're going to need an interface for this one as well, but I'm just doing this to test quickly. And so let's import the library for what is it, the UID. And I think I want to do that, so let's do okay. Okay, so let's try that. And so and then we're gonna see how we're gonna create the ID. Okay. Okay, so when we call this, we're also gonna do game ID, right? And so the game is gonna have the data of the players, right? Game service. So let's think about the game state again, right? So we said the game service will have the game data, but I think it should be the game. I think we're gonna have to refactor this. I think the game should have the state, should be expecting to have this information: the game ID, players, deck, turn, and game status, right? The game service should be there just to store that state and map it. Yeah, we're gonna factor this, but for now, so it's just that. So game ID is gonna be string. That's what I wanted. So let's do public or private for now. Game ID. Okay, and then here we're gonna say game ID equals that, and so that's it. That's all it takes. So here we're gonna do a getter, public get game ID, and it's gonna return a game ID. As simple as that. Okay, so I just wanted to test that, and then in the game service, that's the interface. I don't have the service yet. Okay. Okay, so in that case, let's go back to, okay, let's stay here for a second. All right, so what we say? We're saying that we're expecting to have a game ID, right? Let's think. Let's just think about this for a second, right? Right, okay. Okay. Have the game. We can do add player to the game, right? So we can add a function. Add player, sure. Okay, and then we can do a set. So I guess the bread and the butter of the game service, we're gonna have to define property games, perhaps, and this is gonna map. So it's gonna put in the memory. We're gonna pass a string, which is gonna be the unique identifier, and we're gonna pass the game object, right? Now I think that's what we're gonna do, right? Okay. Yeah, because we said, sorry, we said it's okay. We said we're gonna okay. Yeah, we can pass the for the game class. We can pass the players to it. Okay, yeah. So I think the game will have all the functionality such as deal initial cards, hit or stand. It's gonna be in the game class, and then I'm gonna use the game service as kind of like a wrapper and manage, orchestrate that. I think we can do that, right? We can also do game like get state, which we would prepare the information with what's expected from the game state. I think that would be nice. Okay. But for now, we come back here. We can create a game interface. Okay. And then this one is, it's going to be essentially what the game state expects, right? Okay, started. So add players, start game, hit, stand. And okay, so let's do that quickly. But for now, before I implement those, export interface my game. Okay, so this one will have so have a game ID, a string, players, player data. We'll have the deck, game turn, sure, because it's gonna be part of the state, and game status, sure, because all these are gonna be part of the state anyways. And then we can say start game, or well, we don't really need start game actually, but okay, fine, let's do that. Start game, and then assuming we're gonna return void, then we can get state, and then this one with expected game state, and then we can do hit. And so for this one, it's gonna be game ID and actor data. Do we need the game ID? No, we don't. Not here. So we just need the actor data here. Or player. And maybe I should, I should rename this to actors. I'll have to refactor that later. Anyways, so it's gonna be. So it's gonna be player. Let's do player, and then it's gonna be part of player. So. Okay, and then stand is the same thing. Okay. Yeah. So assuming this is good enough, I'm gonna have to do imports. And so we're gonna import card, I'm gonna import player, game state. And we have everything. Perfect. We have the game interface, okay? So now for that, implement, so here let's do the import. That implements, and so now I'm gonna have issues because not everything is defined, of course. And so here I'm gonna do private players, we empty for now. We said so we're gonna have players, we're gonna have the deck, turn, and game status. Okay, it's gonna be default to. Let's not default it here. Let's not default it here. Okay, that's fine. Defaulting that. Let's import some more. Player, card, and state. And maybe the type of the player. So this one, what we can do in the right here, instead of void, yeah, actually no, it is like that. So then I have an error in my implementation, of course. I need to implement. So we're gonna get player, sure. Public, sure, we can do add player. Public start game is the one we need to pass to create. And then in here, so we're gonna pass the player, right? Like so. So wait a second here. So it says property start game, but it's not a property in type game. Is not assignable to the same property in base type iGame. That's game state, sure. This is the one I'm looking at. So get state. Start game here. Oh, I see. Okay, so in that case, maybe what we want to do is to like add player like here and something like that. So we add the players before we start the game, obviously, and then we don't need to pass the player when we start the game, obviously. Okay, that's fine. Do that. So okay, and then I do have that player right here. Okay, perfect. What else? Public get state. This is gonna return the state. Okay. Game ID, players, deck, turn, game status. I think that's, yeah, that's we need. That's good. I think for the players, I might have to map certain things. Well, we'll have to revisit this part here. What else do I need to implement that I have not? The initial cards, hit stand. So I have all. So okay, all these three, and then after that it should be correct. So public hit. Okay. Public stand player, and then one more. Still initial cards, like so, and this should. Okay, right. So we can just default it here for now, and this game status active. Okay. Is private, but oh, I see. Okay, so maybe I can make them read-only in that case, since I can't make them private. I could potentially I can make them read-only, I think. Like so. And so this ensures that I can modify, but I don't really want that. I do want to modify them. Okay, interfaces, man. Alright, this is good. Okay. So we got ourselves a game implementation, a class of the game implementation, and now the last thing I'm gonna do to test this out, it's gonna be the actual game service. Like so here. So we're gonna do export class game service. Okay, implements service. Okay, and then I have to import this. Import service from game service from oops. From interfaces. Yep, that looks more or less okay. And we can revisit this guy. Okay, so we need a game ID. Actually, we just need to create game, right? Yeah. Yeah. But just for testing purposes, maybe what I want to do now, I'm just gonna ignore that interface. And I'm gonna have public create game. And I'm just going to define a game here. And I just wanted the mechanism where I'm storing the game. So I'm creating the game like so. It's new game. So I need to import. Oh wow, okay. Import it just like that. Okay, perfect. So new game. like so. And then so here we're gonna get game ID, right? So let's do constant game ID equals game get game ID, right? Okay. So now that I have the game ID, so here I'm gonna have something which is gonna be accessible only to this. So it's gonna be games, and it's gonna map. So my games is gonna map the string with the game state or game data. And it's gonna look like game service. There you go. Okay, so it's gonna map string with the game object. Like so. And so now that we have that, that's going to be in the memory. So now that we have that, and I can just do these games set, I can pass the game ID, and I can pass the game that I just created. It's expecting a class. It's as simple as that. Boom, there you go. And so now, if I want to do, let's say, get game, I can just pass the game ID, right? Which is gonna be a string, like so. And it's gonna return whatever finds inside. We can do some validation, but for now it's not that important. Get game ID, right? So let's do a test on this. Okay, and right, let's do a test with this. Should work, right? So we don't need the web server. I'm gonna bring back the terminal. Like so. And so we don't need the web server now for that. I can just go to src, and this is services. Okay. And so here I'm gonna do const game service equals new game service, like so. I don't need to export that. And so next I'm going to do console log yeah, we can do create game first, right? And then I can do a get game. So based on the information I get here, I can return the game ID here, right? So, yeah, okay. So that return game ID for now. Okay, so that's it. It's set, and then I need a game ID here, right? So constant game ID equals. I can also just print it now that I'm thinking about it, but the idea is that I can do that because once the program ends, the memory gets reset. Whereas if it was an API, so when Express is gonna run, this whole thing is gonna stay up online in the memory. But from the console, once I finish the execution, so I execute once I finished it, the memory is gonna be wiped. So I'm just gonna prove the concept doing what I'm doing here right now. It's all gonna make sense once we put it behind Express. Yeah, okay. Constant game ID equals game service dot create service. Okay, cool. Create game, sorry. So We get the game ID. We can print it. Okay. So let's print that. And so let's create a few games actually. Okay. We can do let in this case and just actually we don't need to do that again. Okay, let's do that, and then we're gonna override it, of course, because I just want to print it. That's the most important. And let's do three of them, right? Yeah. Actually, I could just copy and paste this. So we're gonna do 3 of them, and here's the thing now. Once I finish this, actually, you know what? Let's do something else. So I put game ID 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So all these should be in memory now, right? So when I'm gonna do console log game service get game ID 1, ID 2, and ID 3, like so. So if I do this now, I'll have all the information in the console, right? Let's try this. Okay, this should run. Fairly confident. Boom. We got it. So as you see in the console. Okay, so let's look at what's happening here. So we get, those are the 3 IDs I got. So those will be unique, and I'll explain in a second quickly before I end the stream how this is gonna work. So those IDs will be shared to the client, and then the client will store these. And every time it interacts with the API, which I'm gonna build, the with Express server, it's gonna pass this unique identifier, and then the game service will take this, and it's gonna look into this dictionary that I just built right here. So it's gonna look into that, and it's gonna attempt to find a game. If it does not find it, then it's gonna throw an error, right? And so this is a game instance right there, and we ensure it follows a certain shape or form because of the interface we just implemented. Okay, cool. So we got that, and then inside each game instance, again, this information will be shared back to the client, and so this information will change because the deck will change and the players will change. Mainly, each player will have a hand and some other information. Will have a type, name, hand, etc. Right? And that can change. Especially the hand will change. For example, once you do a hit command, the hit will draw a card to the player, and that's why their hand will change. So the client will send information, the command, and then it will get back, and then the state will update as a result as well every time you do that. And that's why I think it's going to be important. And that's the reason why I think that maybe what we want to do, the game service will have to wrap all the commands of the game. So like hit, all those things need to be wrapped, I think. Except some initial ones like adding players, dealing initial cards, those will be done in the create game, right? And everything else will be done after, right? So that's what we're gonna do. Okay. So thanks for tuning in. In the next episodes, we're gonna finalize this API. I know it's a lot of talk, a lot of work here. And after that, in the final stage, we're gonna work on the client, which I already have a prototype for it. But we're gonna build it. I want to keep it as a surprise. We're gonna build it, and it's gonna be awesome. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Peace. Cheers.